All right, so good morning. It's 10 a.m. and it's time to get started. We are conducting this WebEx meetings with our cameras turned on if possible. Fingers crossed this will work out seamlessly for everybody. Nobody will have any troubleshooting or technological issues. But if you do, let me know and we will try and work it out. First order of business is to swear in our newest member of the advisory committee, Mr. Leon Scroggins. I'd like to welcome Director Kimberly Kirkmeyer, DCA Director, to do the swearing in.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you to the committee for having me on the phone to swear on Mr. Scroggins. And we're just really excited about him joining this advisory committee. And so with that, Leon, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. And if you could just repeat after me. So I, and your name.
I, Leon Scroggins,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
That I will support and defend.
that I will support and defend
The Constitution.
the Constitution
Of the United States.
of the United States
And the Constitution.
and the Constitution
Of the State of California.
of the State of California
Against all enemies.
against all enemies,
Foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
And I will bear true faith and allegiance
To the Constitution of the United States.
to the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely
Without any mental reservation.
without any
Mental
what was that?
reservation.
without any method or reservations
Or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
That I will well and faithfully
Discharge the duties.
discharge the duties
Upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome to the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services Advisory Committee. Very
Thank you.
happy to have you.
I'm happy to be able to participate.
Back to you, Lynn.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. I know you've got to run, so I really appreciate you stopping by and doing the swearing in. So thank you for that. Okay, so what we have now is I did the call to order and we're going to do the roll call. So I'm going to call on Antoine Nahaj, who is our policy manager, to do the roll call.
Okay, this is the roll call for the BSIS Advisory Committee meeting for October 21st, 2021. Brian Boglin.
Present.
Brian Boglin, present. Phil Sachere. Anton Farmby.
Present.
Anton Farmby, present. Frank Huntington.
Present.
Frank Huntington, present. Mark Miller.
Here.
Mark Miller, present. Darren Morgan. Darren Morgan is not present right now. Nancy Murish.
Present.
Nancy Murish, present. Eli Owen. Stanton Perez. Chris Sayers. Chris, are you on? Because I thought that you joined us a little bit earlier. Just wanted to double
Yes.
check.
Yes, yeah, I'm present. I answered. Sorry, it didn't come through.
No problem. Chris Sayers present. Glenn Younger.
Present.
Glenn Younger present. Leon Scroggins.
Present?
Leon Scroggins present. We have 8 members in attendance, so we have quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next up is the review and approval of our meeting minutes from the last meeting on July 22nd, 21. These were sent out to you last week for review. Does anyone have any questions or issues regarding those minutes?
No.
Okay, and it doesn't look like anybody else has any issues with them, so I am asking for a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Anton Farmby, so moved.
Thank
Frank
you.
Huntington, second.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, Antoine, if you could do the roll call for the minutes.
Yes, motion to approve the meeting minutes for the last, from July 22nd, 2021 meeting. Brian Boglin. Phil Sachere. Let's see, Anton Farmby.
Aye.
Anton Farmby, yes. Frank Huntington.
Aye.
Frank Huntington, aye. Mark Miller.
Aye.
Mark Miller, aye. Darren Morgan. Nancy Murish.
Aye.
Nancy Murish, aye. Chris Sayers.
Aye.
Chris Sayers, aye. Glenn Younger.
Aye.
Leon Scroggins.
Aye.
All right, we have 8 ayes, so the motion passes.
Thank you, Antoine. Moving on to our next agenda item, item number 4, which is the update from the DCA, Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office. We are lucky once again to have Carrie Holmes from the DCA Board and Bureau Relations Office here today to give the update. Welcome, Carrie.
Good morning, Chief Andrus and committee members. I am Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for allowing me to provide an update. I would like to welcome Leon Scroggins as the newest member of the committee. Welcome back to California. Congratulations on your appointment, and thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
You're welcome.
DCA appreciates all committee members and staff who have continued to serve through a pandemic that has affected all of us in many ways. We are working together to find the right balance of staying connected and productive while staying safe and healthy. DCA continues to look to the future and use lessons learned to identify long-term efficiencies and policy changes. Staff are working in the office to provide the most effective consumer protection and public service, while also utilizing telework where appropriate. DCA is assembling a task force to help the department create a telework policy that will provide further clarity and structure for managers and staff. It's expected to be finalized next fall. To combat the spread of COVID-19 and protect vulnerable communities, California is implementing enhanced safety measures for state employees and workers in healthcare settings. State employees must show proof of vaccination or be subject to regular COVID-19 testing. DCA's testing program kicked off in early October with a launch at the DCA headquarters pilot site. Committee members must follow health and safety protocols if they plan to visit a DCA location or attend an in-person meeting. Members must verify vaccination or follow testing protocols. Please communicate any plans for in-person meetings as soon as possible so DCA can assist with coordination of teleconference options, vaccination verification, and testing. DCA recognizes the difficulty of planning for future meetings as the pandemic continues to evolve. As the law stands today, remote meetings like we're having today will be allowed until January 2022, after which time meetings will need to be in person. We don't know what additional changes to the law may be coming, but I think we all recognize there are benefits to remote meeting options, such as increased public participation, cost savings, and a lower carbon footprint due to reduced travel. We will keep you updated on any additional changes to the requirements. Whether meeting remote or in person, DCA wants to keep your committee fully seated with excellent members and diverse voices. With Member Scroggins' appointment, the committee has one vacancy, a public member appointed by the DCA director. I encourage individuals who may be listening that do not hold a license issued by the Bureau to visit board member resources on DCA's homepage to apply for an appointment. You can also reach out directly to me or Chief Andrus for more information. And lastly, DCA has been made aware of various scams affecting boards and bureaus. We have shared information about these scams on the DCA website and social media. Please take a moment to visit the DCA Fraud Alert website to be made aware of these scams and learn how to protect yourself and licensees from malicious individuals. And one last reminder, 2021 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year, so all employees and committee members need to complete this training during 2021, which is rapidly approaching its end. We've created profiles for you in the learning management system and informed Chief Andrus of the steps you need to take to log in and access the training. We are also happy to assist you with any questions or concerns about the training or LMS. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help. If there's anything I can do, please reach out. This concludes my presentation, and I'll hand it back over to Chief Andrus.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate, and I know we all appreciate you taking the time to come here and update us during our meeting. What I am going to do now is ask for board members or committee members if you have any questions or comments for Carrie at this time.
Nope.
Thank you, Carrie, as usual. Appreciate the update and the report.
Thank you for signing in this morning with that oath yesterday.
My pleasure.
Thank
We're
you.
very happy you're here.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
we're very happy that it all ended well and you're here, Leon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see anybody's hands raised or anybody clamoring for Carrie's time at this point. So thank you, Carrie. I appreciate you coming here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your meeting. I'm
Thank you,
here
Carrie.
if anything comes up.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 5, which is the Bureau Chief's introduction, welcome remark and Bureau updates. Want to thank all of you again for coming. I know we just do this 3 times a year, but it is a time investment, and I really appreciate you going through, the stuff that we send you. It is just 3 times a year, but we do send you a lot of stuff to review, and that's because your input and where you come from and your point of view on how we implement things is very important. We do take advisory committee members' suggestions and comments, questions seriously. What we do is we go through internally the meeting minutes from the last 2 meetings, and we make sure that we've reached out to sort of dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's with all the questions that are brought up during these meetings. If you haven't gotten a question answered, or if there's something else that you need assistance with, please let me know. Just say, hey, we talked about this last meeting, it wasn't addressed, ping me. By all means, it's not a bother at all. This is why you guys were appointed, so that you could help us work our way through some of these things. And I want to make sure that we treat you with the, respect and deference that your experience deserves. So, okay. We, as Carrie said, we are so close to having a full roster. The only opening we still have is a public member opening, and that public member opening has to be a true member of the public, not a BSIS license holder. But other than that, we've got 12 folks on our committee. We max out at 13, so we are getting there, folks. I'm really excited about that. But if you know of anybody who might be interested in serving in that spot, please let us know, let them know, let us know, and we will reach out to them. The other big update that I want to talk to you guys about is a legislative update. It has been a crazy, I'd say, last 6 weeks. We had a number of bills move through the legislature that got signed. We're excited about every single one of them, but there are a handful of huge, monstrous bills that we have, and they're good. It's a good thing. We wanted these bills, but it has been very frantic ramping up to implement them, because a lot of them go into effect, a lot of the provisions go into effect January 1, 2022, which is just about 10 weeks away. So I apologize to folks that have reached out. And I've said, things are really crazy right now. Can we meet, in a week or two? My busy time is coming to a close. So next week, everything should free up again, and I will start holding meetings. So thank you all for your patience, and we will get that done. Telework also looks likely to stay for the near future. BSIS, as always, is an enthusiastic utilizer of telework. Our staff enjoys flexibility. I enjoy the flexibility. We continue to work diligently, telework and in person. We have a rotating shift in the office. We do adhere to social distancing, and we do stagger staff hours so that our office is not overloaded. We do have a desk open to the public, so we have to be open. We get an awful lot of paper applications on a daily basis still. We have on our security guards license type, which is our busiest by far, we have about an 80-something% online application and renewal rate. But that still means there are several hundred applications coming in every day to the office that we need bodies here to process and do all that fun stuff. So we are open every day, 8 to 5. One of the things that I like to say, and I'm sure half of you are sick and tired of me saying this, but if you can, and if your license type and the folks that you deal with can do it online, have them do it online. Sending in a paper app goes through several extra steps outside of our control that will delay your application getting approved. So if you do it online, it cuts out a lot of the delay. And if everything lines up, a lot of times you can get approved in 24 to 48 hours. So that's something that I really, really push every time I go and speak someplace. Please do this online. Oh, okay, it looks like Phil Ray got on. Okay, welcome, Phil. Sorry you had issues logging on. Looks like we got you on there. Okay. And other than that, that is it for my update. Any committee members have any questions or comments for me at this time?
Chief, it's Frank Huntington. May I make a quick comment?
Of course, Frank.
I want to emphasize the Breeze outfit. My PI license was set to expire October 31st. Several weeks ago, I got on Breeze. I think it was a Sunday, renewed it. I had my card in the mail on Tuesday. And my FQ card, granted, that's a little bit more paperwork, was there the following week. So if you do it right, it's a phenomenal system.
I like to hear that. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. We do get. Yeah, go ahead.
I will say the same thing. Sometimes guard cards I've heard clear in a day even,
Yeah.
thing.
I tell you, when we're on fire, we're on fire.
Yeah.
And when we're not, we're not. So, and there are a lot of things that are outside of our control. One of the things that really helps when you apply online is making sure that your fingerprint, the name you used when you live scan, matches 100% the name you use on your application. A lot of times people have hyphenated last names and they will skip the hyphenation and one or the other. That will mess it up. If everything has to match up, but when it does match up, it is a thing of beauty, truly. Okay.
And add the SOCH, right?
Yes. Make sure your social security numbers match up. That is another big one too. And date of birth. People mess up surprisingly often on the date of birth. So make sure that live scan and application have the correct date of birth on there. Anybody else have any comments or questions for me at this time?
Hey, Chief, I
Yes.
just have a quick comment really, briefly. I just wanted to thank you and your staff because, the partnership that we have, at least with the burglar alarm industry, when it comes to legislative issues and, code clarifications and things like that, it's been a tremendous relationship. So I know I've told you this offline, but I want to make, officially thank you from our industry for all the work and time and focus that you and your staff put into helping us out through some of our issues. So thank you.
I also warms my heart. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the shout out. That is nice. All right. I heard a few other voices. Anybody else want to chime in?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Phil Ray.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah, I have an issue that just happened training a firearms class, and I had a person of a transgender. What policy or is any kind of a requirement for these people to put in other than a birth certificate and a driver's license to prove their change of gender and name?
That is a question I am going to have to get back to you on, Phil.
Okay, good.
I don't know that I've been confronted with that particular fact pattern before, so let me check and get back to you.
Yeah, I haven't either, but this student completed everything, is now wants to file, and I thought, we might have an issue with DOJ and FBI.
Yeah. Let me check on that. I will have to get back to you on that, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else at this time? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna kick it open to the public in case the public has any questions or comments for the chief.
This is the moderator. We have opened up the Q&A panel, and we will be displaying instructions on the screen in just a second. Oh, there it is. Please type comment into the Q&A box, and we will address your send it to all panelists, and we will address your concerns as soon as possible. Seeing no requests for comments, would you like me to close the feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, which is an update on the Bureau's licensing unit. I am going to have our extremely sorry, I guess there's that statewide earthquake thing going on right now, the earthquake drill. Sorry for that. Okay, so next up is agenda item number 6, which is the update from the Bureau's licensing unit. And Gloriela Garcia is our immensely talented Deputy Chief of Licensing. So I'm going to have her present this. Thank you, Gloriela. Can you all hear me? Awesome. Yep. Okay, so I'm excited to share with you that our online participation for processing apps is doing really well, and it can always be better, but I wanted to share a little bit of the stats for you all. So currently for initial applications, we are processing 85% of our applications online. So that's fantastic. 15% of those are paper, so there's a couple stragglers there for initial. For the renewal applications, there's a little bit more work to be done. Our online participation is 68% and our paper is 32%. This, along with other stats that I'll be mentioning, are on our web page under the I should say the advisory committee hearing for your later reference. So I'm just going to point out just a couple of statistics to share with you all. Our fiscal year 2021, we met our performance measures by 90%. So I'm excited about that because we know if we are issuing those licenses, that the more people we can put out there to earn a living. So we take a lot of pride in that. And I wanted to go over some of the statistics, the performance measures for last year. So if I can have the moderator, please share the processing timeframes performance measures under licensing updates, please. And so if you can just scroll down to, let's see, processing timeframes performance measures, just a little bit more. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and share some of the statistics. So for security guard, our performance measures is 60 days. The average is 24 days. As was mentioned earlier, you know, it can be done as soon as a day. Firearm permits, our target is 75 days. There's work to be had there. Our average was 144. But as you will learn a little later today, we're going to talk about some legislation that is going to be implemented next year that will help us with our turnaround times. And I was just informed we can scroll down on the statistics, so thank you. For ACE, alarm company employees, our target turnaround time is 60 days, and we were on target averaging 35 days. For LOC, locksmith employee applications, our target date was 60 days. We were at 53 averaging days. For PIs, For initials, target date 30, and then average was 3. For repossession employees, we were at 60 days, target 60, and we're at 3 days. Just to list a couple, I wanted to take the time to kind of go over those numbers. Because I know sometimes we just say it, and sometimes looking at them and talking about them is just better. Let's see. Okay, so we have some breeze changes. BMO 1434. I'm trying to see if I can scroll down, so just give me a second. Okay. Moderator, could you see if you can put the summary of breeze changes? Trying to scroll down, but I'm unable to do that. Okay. I'm just going to tell you there was 2 BMOs, BMO 1434. There was a deficiency we had. We were getting a lot of deficiencies in licensing because applicants were clicking on the hard card fingerprint question almost like 8 out of 10 times. So it was a huge deficiency that was delaying our processing. We've since took out that text and question from our online applications, and except for the alarm industry applications, because most of our alarm industry applicants are out of state. And so that has helped us tremendously. Another BMO 393 is we now added onto Breeze Versa Online our contact information for BSIS. I understood that there was a point in time where all these Breeze inquiries were sent to the general DCA line, and now it's a little bit more streamlined so that those questions we can assist. And I did want to mention that I highly encourage that if you have any specific questions about the status of your applications, please email our SIS box. Our turnaround time is generally 24 to 48 hours. Additionally, we have a lot of efficiencies in place, but those online efficiencies in place will be on hold until we can implement some of these changes due to legislation. But one of the ones that I do want is to start sending email notices to applicants. So with regards to when we receive an initial application, when it was licensed, same with the renewals. So if I can have your help in notifying the industry to please start putting in their email address information, that would be helpful. Because once we get that efficiency, the more I can push for efficiencies and online viewing, the better. And let me see. Outreach, I'm currently scheduled to do outreach along with the bureau chief and the other deputy chief for CalSAGA, their annual meeting. We have a live Q&A today. And then we had pre-recorded some material last month. And so that's the latest outreach that I've done personally last month. Okay, so then I did want to throw out a question to you all. I was wondering if you guys had any feedback with regards to applicants being able to view our deficiencies, both for firearm initial and renewal. So Gloria, I'm going to hop in here real quick just to emphasize a little what you said. So what has happened in the last few months to Breeze? Just keep in mind that Breeze, which is our online licensing system, it's used by so many boards and bureaus that we have to wait our turn for any technological changes to Breeze, anything. We get 3 every quarter. So we could use 3 a day, honestly, in improving our Breeze platform. But because we fight for resources, it takes a long time to get Breeze to where, you know, we want it to be for certain things. So one of the latest updates and upgrades that we did, which is what Gloriella was talking about, is we are able now to put deficiency letters, or where the applicant went wrong. We're able to put those letters onto their Breeze account. The applicant can pull it up and look at it at any point. Prior to this, they had to wait to get a hard copy letter from us. Oftentimes, if they changed addresses, because our security guards tend to be more on the transient, you know, moving around more often than general population does, we have bad addresses. So oftentimes they never know what they did wrong. So this is a huge deal. It's really big. I feel like it's a game changer. And so what we're directing people to do now is go online and see where you went wrong and send in the information that we need. And it's going to cut out a lot of extra time and a lot of frustration. And then I'm also going to throw in, because I always say this as well, don't call the 1-800 number or the regular 916-322 number for BSIS that's listed. Always advise folks to email us. The calls, all of our calls get routed through the DCA General Call Center. They are not subject matter experts, but if you email us, we get you the right answer every time. So spread the word there. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in, because Gloriella she wasn't a good enough hype man for herself and her team. You know, there's like a huge deal what they did, and we're really super psyched about the deficiency letters being online. So with that, open it up for questions.
Gloriella, the deficiency letters now are they just for arms, initial and renewal, or is it on the security guard side also? For posting, for emailing?
L'Oreal, you're muted.
Mark?
Hi.
Hi. So what we have available online currently is for just firearm permits, initial and renewals. Yes.
Okay, but the guards, should they be putting their email address in also? Are we communicating with them?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. That would be ideal. We don't have that efficiency just yet, but it is lined up in queue in the IT priority list. So I hope that it will be in the near future. So I'm just trying to give you guys advance notice, essentially, to let you know that at some point we will have that other efficiency, which is emailing you all updates on with regards to the status of the application, when it was received and when it was licensed for both initial and renewals for all license types.
It's on our bucket list.
Thank you.
I have one other question. On the email, Lynn, you said people, guard applicants should email, and now it goes directly to BSIS. I've heard good feedback on that.
Good.
Yeah. So, that's amazing. So they just email you, hey, what is going on? And then you guys respond to them, or?
Yeah. Yep. That's how it works. We get the emails, and we have, you know, our manager over that particular function. She diverts the email to staff, and then we at this point usually have a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time via email queries. So we're pretty on top of that.
That's nice. What is that email address?
So funny you should ask, Mark, because there are a number of different email addresses we have. General email inquiries can go to bsis@dca.ca.gov. However, if you are PPO, you know, there's PPO at, you know, it's all listed on our website under Contact Us. Yeah. So each individual license type has their own email address. All of them are listed under the Contact Us tab on our website.
I'll look on the website. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Gloriella on licensing?
When will 2021 be posted? The annual report.
Oh, you mean the one for the fiscal year that just ended, the 2021 fiscal year?
Yeah.
Soon, we think. I mean, I think unless Carrie wants to jump in and give any more updated information, but we got all the information over to the central office a couple of months ago, and then they go through everything, and then they post it, I want to say, towards the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gloria, this is Brian Bogan. I got a quick request for you. So because SB 830 is going through and taking effect July 1st of next year, which we're all very excited about, is there any way I can request to get maybe a monthly email specific to ACEs on applications that are submitted to Breeze, so that way we can beat the drum on that requirement until July 1st of next year?
And Brian, and so I just want to make sure I understand, and this is just from here on out, so you guys can better understand what that, universe looks like. Okay, I'm gonna just talk over a little bit with Lynn and see what we can do after this meeting, and we'll see what we can do to help you all be prepared. I'm also very excited. The alarm industry is going to be the pioneers, if you will, for all online applications. So that's huge because hopefully we can follow suit with the rest of license types.
Yeah, and we just want to beat that drum for our industry members, so that way nobody is caught, or hopefully nobody is caught off guard when that requirement takes effect. You know, if we can get a monthly thing, we can put it out in publications and whatnot, but just, you know, maybe get with me offline so we can work it out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to let all the other stakeholders know that Brian, who represents the alarm industry, they ran a bill this year mandating online only applications for their profession, which is huge. I mean, we would like to do that across the board because it's so much more efficient and saves a lot of time, but there's always going to be, you know, disenfranchised folks that we do not want to push off into the e-world if they can't access it. So we'll very likely always accept paper apps, but the incentive to go online is really undeniable. So kudos to the alarm industry for doing that. Thank you.
Right on.
Anybody else? Questions, comments, observations? No? Okay, what I'm going to do now is open it up to the public for questions, comments, observation from the public.
This is the moderator. We have opened up the Q&A panel for public comments. We will just be displaying instructions in just a moment. If you would like to make a comment, please type comment or I would like to make a comment into the Q&A box and send it to all panelists. We have a request for comment from Edwin Torres. Give me just a moment. Edwin, you have been sent a request to unmute your mic, and we see that your mic is unmuted.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my question was, could you go a little bit more into detail on why there seems to be a big discrepancy between the target timeframe for the initial firearms application and the actual completion timeframe based on the information that was put up earlier?
Absolutely. Yes, so the target goal was identified prior to the assessment that became law. Essentially is this assessment needs to be, the applicant needs to pass the assessment in order for us to issue that license. So the time clock never stops. So from the time we receive the application to the time that the applicant has to take the exam and pass it.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions?
We will give it just a moment. Seeing no additional requests for comment, would you like me to close the feature?
Yes, please. Okay, number 7, agenda item number 7. So first of all, thank you, Gloriella. Appreciate it. Awesome, as always. Number 7 is update on the Bureau's enforcement unit by our enforcement deputy chief, Sam Stadolsky.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Sure can, Sam.
All right. Some quick updates for enforcement. Lynn will go into more detail later on SB 607, but just so everybody's aware, it changes the firearm assessment process so that we're not going to be denying folks a firearms permit if they fail that assessment. So what that means for us is that we currently have 209 appeals pending at the AG's office right now. So with the law change going into effect January 1st, we're working with DCA Legal, our own legal counsel, as well as the AG's office on kind of the best strategies for implementing this change and what that's going to look like. So we'll definitely have several more conversations to go as we try to work with people and hopefully withdraw some of those appeals and get our caseload down, because the AG caseload is very large and very expensive. So that's something we'll be working on over the next couple of months. For enforcement, I shared with you all last time, we have, our special investigator. To be perfectly honest, I haven't seen much of him because he's been in the field for the past several months. So he's out there. We're definitely hitting the ground running on unlicensed activity. So currently we have about 10% of our pending investigations are all for unlicensed activity. And for this current fiscal year, 26% of the citations we've issued have been for unlicensed activity. So I know I hear a lot, from people who have concerns that they're not necessarily seeing it. I can assure you we're doing it. I shared with you last time, we're looking at publishing those unlicensed activity citations online so that there will be an ongoing record of it. Been working with our policy unit on that. Unfortunately, legislation's been so busy the last few months that was one thing we couldn't quite get going right away. So hopefully early next year. I know we have a lot of implementation stuff to do, so hopefully we'll be able to start getting that going. And then I just want to remind everybody to subscribe for our weekly blast for auto suspensions and revocations. That's available on our subscriber page on our website. You'll be able to get a weekly email letting you know all the licenses that have been suspended or revoked for that week. So if you're running a company, I highly encourage everybody to go subscribe to that. Another thing we're looking at doing is AB 229 was signed, and it's going to increase the reporting requirements for physical altercations for security guards. We're looking at ways to streamline and make it a little more easier for companies to submit those incident reports, especially for PPOs. Currently, they're filling out a form, they're emailing that into us. We're working with the Breeze team to see if we can have those incident reports be submitted similar to a complaint on Breeze. So the licensee would be able to log into Breeze, fill in the form, and just shoot it over to us that way. It will cut down a lot of time. It will streamline that process. So we're going to work with our Breeze team on that, see if we can get that going. I think that's about it for updates. Does anybody have any questions?
Sam, this is Frank Huntington.
Hey, Frank.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Can you break down a little bit, you mentioned the percentage of UAL. Can you break that down a little bit as far as the individual professions?
I didn't break down all the raw data, and I don't have that available right now.
Okay,
But it is something we can look at for next time.
sure. Just
Wanna
what,
give an idea?
can you give me a rough estimate of what the majority is? Are the UAL?
As far as what license types,
Yeah, exactly.
I would say predominantly it's a lot of unlicensed guards.
Okay.
That's a large one. As far as PIs, a lot of what I think we see in the unlicensed activity realm isn't necessarily just blatant unlicensed activity. It's ones where could be unlicensed, and then there's the argument of is it unlicensed, and so we always have that aspect of things. So that's what I'd say we see more frequently in the PI field.
Okay.
Keep in mind, anytime we issue an unlicensed activity citation, they have the chance to have an informal conference with the bureau chief. So that allows them to basically say, hey, well, wait a minute, maybe, you didn't quite see something, or we have some other evidence. So they have that ability to have their time with the chief before they go and do a formal appeal.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I appreciate it.
Sam, can you hear me? Sam, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's that?
Phil, yeah, that's Phil.
Oh, this is Phil. Yeah, Sam, I was wondering, did you say that you have some kind of a site that we can go to, or do you send us a list of these unlicensed or cited companies that we could know in case we run into these people?
Right. So what we're working on is having a list published on our website. So I would like it to be a continuous update to where, each month or whatever, we update this list to show all the unlicensed activity citations we've issued. We haven't gotten there yet because there's a lot of other things that are a little more time sensitive that we've been working on, but that is one of our future projects we hope to get up and running.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam, quick question. I know we've talked about this briefly in the past, but since ACO's scope of work, a lot of times the majority of the time, our industry's dual license with CSLB. Is there any cooperation with enforcement between CSLB and BSIS currently?
Yeah, we definitely have a rapport with them. We can reach out and share information. So yeah.
Have they kicked any? Because I know they do stings as well. I'm just curious if they, basically give you any heads up on unlicensed activity on stings that they're performing.
Well, I can't really comment on that, Brian.
Okay.
Yes, they do. I mean, sometimes when it bleeds into our area, but not always.
I mean, obviously, our members in the industry, enforcement's a huge focus. Everybody wants to make sure that everyone is doing the right thing and not giving industry members a bad name. So there's always questions about this between cross collaboration between BSIS and CSLB when it comes to some of these enforcement pieces. So thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay, if the committee members don't have any other questions, I'll open it up to public for questions from the public.
This is the moderator. We have opened up the Q&A panel for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type comment or I would like to make a comment into the Q&A box and send it to all panelists. Seeing no request for comments, would you like me to close the feature?
Yes, please. Okay, next up is what we have been frantically working on for the past several months. It is our legislative update. As Sam mentioned, and as we have covered briefly, there were several very big bills that passed through. I'll go through them in order. Mostly small, but a couple really big ones. And I also want to take this time to thank all of our advisory committee members. I reach out to quite a few of you on probably a distressingly regular basis for you to ask for your opinion on how these bills will impact your particular jurisdiction. And you all have been so great on doing this. And really just superstars in getting information back to us quickly. And we couldn't do it without you. We couldn't amend bills without you. We couldn't, veto bad bills without your help. So really, it's just you guys are fantastic. So I just wanted to thank the advisory committee members for that. Okay, diving into the bills. So AB 107 by Assemblymember Salas. This is temporary license reciprocity for military. That is not a huge deal for us, but obviously we do have some. AB 229 from Assemblymember Holden. This is one of the big ones. This expands on use of force in incident reports. It also raises the fines on folks who don't provide an incident report in a timely fashion. This is the one where security guards and folks who use firearms or receive firearms permits from the Bureau. We are revamping the use of force for this bill. We're about to kick off a stakeholder group and really roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of how we're going to overhaul and modernize use of force among security guards primarily, but to a much smaller extent, some of our other licensees get captured in that as well. It's a big deal. It's the biggest overhaul that we've had in use of force in a very long time. So this is going to be a monster undertaking. And we're really excited about it. It's all good, but it's just going to take over the next several months. It's going to take a while. Several provisions of this bill go into effect in a staggered fashion. First up, on January 1st, we have the broadened incident report requirement. We weren't getting a lot of incident reports from security guards who were using physical force with citizens. And we discussed that with the legislature. They reached out to us and they said, how are things on this front? And, how many reports do you get? We really only got a handful a week, which based on anecdotal reports and media reports was wildly underreported. So we beefed up the fines for failure to report. And then we also said, look, if there's any physical altercation that a guard has with a member of the public, you need to report it. We anticipate a deluge of incident reports coming our way as of January 1st. So next time we have our advisory committee meeting, we will be able to give you guys numbers on what we're seeing. So there's that, there's the use of force. So that's a big one. That's one of the big ones this year. AB 358 from Assemblymember Flora allows for an electrified security fence. This is more CSLB, but it bleeds into our area as well. AB 484, this is Assemblymember Medina. Alarm company operators can put a website link on their advertisements, which will lead them to a page where you have your license information, contact information, all that stuff. That is a change from current law, which mandates that you have to put all this information on your advertisements. AB 830 is another big one. This is the alarm company industry bill. This requires all applications to be submitted online. There are other bits and bobbles to that particular bill, but the big one is it's going to require all apps to be submitted online. So we'll let you know how that goes. AB 913, Assemblymember Smith. This redefines terms in the Collateral Recovery Act and allows an email of the notice, seizure, and inventory. That one is a big one. There was amendments that went back and forth on that one, and that is our repossessor bill this year. SB 607 is the bill that I am most personally excited about. The assessment, as most of you know, has been a real burden on the Bureau. it was driving us to insolvency. We were projected to go insolvent in about 18 months. Basically what the assessment is, for those of you who don't know, if you're security guard and you want to get a firearm permit from the Bureau to be an armed guard, you have to not only submit, you know, all the training certificates and all that other fun stuff, but once we clear you, okay, your application is all here, it looks good, you did all the required training, now we're going to send you out to get this assessment, which judges your restraint, self-control, and judgment, restraint, and self-control. And if you fail the assessment, you don't get a firearm permit. The failure rate was about 15%. And if you tell somebody that they have been deemed to not have the judgment to carry a firearm, they take that very personally, understandably. And so the appeals rate for failure of the assessment is sky high. Everybody appealed. Each appeal runs on average about $5,000. So that dramatically escalated our enforcement costs from about $700,000 a year to over $3 million in the space of 12 months. So that was going to bankrupt us. So we went to the legislature and said, we need help. So now what this bill does, SB 607, is it says before you even hand in your application to the Bureau, you need to pass the assessment. So it's going to be part of the entrance exam requirements for a firearm permit now. So we don't get involved at all with the assessment now. They're taking that before they apply. They have to have, you know, have passed it. We get the information straight from the vendor, and then we can clear them once they pass the assessment. So that will take all denials out of our house, so to speak. We won't have to deal with the Attorney General anymore. Well, for assessments. For everything else, we still have to deal with them. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Folks still have to take the assessment. They're just doing it as part of their entry or application process. So that's that. And I'm going to kick it open to any committee members who have any questions or comments on bills.
This is Anton Farnby.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Phil.
I want to just clarify on this assessment. You're saying they have to now, I don't know when this is going to happen, have to do the assessment before applying or taking the course on the firearms?
Yes,
training?
it's going to go into effect January 1st. So this one is one of the ones, this is one of the reasons why we've been so frantic here. It's good. We wanted it to go into effect as soon as possible to help save us from having to raise fees. It goes into effect January 1st of this year. So we are frantically trying to update the training facilities and let them know that this is now going to be part of the application process. We're sending out things on social media. We're working with the Breeze folks because there's updates to Breeze that are, it's a whole thing. But yes, Phil, that's a very long way of saying yes. Now they have to have it done before they apply, if they apply after January 1.
Is there any appeal process if they're denied at that stage?
No, because it's not, we're not involved at that point.
Gotcha.
This is, again, similar to an entrance exam. So, so there's that. And they have an unlimited number of times to retake it.
I'm very glad to hear that happened because I know the Bureau was very, very concerned about that. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. We're excited. They can only take it though twice a year to keep the integrity of the exam. That's what the proctors tell us. So every 180 days, they're eligible to retake until they pass. And there's an unlimited number of retakes that they can do.
But only twice a year.
Twice a year, which is better than now, which is once a year.
What is the process? What will it be, Lynn? They take the assessment before they apply.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But BSIS will they generate a letter saying this is where you can go take it and everything?
So that is all part of what we're figuring out right now, Mark.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think the way we're sort of picturing this is in order for the applicant also to save money. So right now, if you want a firearms permit, you got to go through training, you got to take the assessment. And you got to pass both. Firearms training is on the range and also book. You got to take a written exam. So that's gonna stay in place, and that usually runs folks several $100s. The assessment I think is $55 or $65. And and this is how we're envisioning this will save applicants money. Take the assessment first, right, and then do your training. You know, you have 6 months. The way the bill is written is you have 6 months from the date you take the assessment to getting your completed application into us. So my personal vision would be, you know, take the assessment first. Once you pass that, you know, you put out your money for the training, and then send all that off to us for us to process.
So that could, okay. So you're trying to figure it all out, but it could be so simple. It's there's a listing of sites on your website, and then if anybody's who's interested in taking the assessment, they go to that site and take the assessment.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, we think.
Okay.
Like walk into PSI and say, hey, I'm here to take the firearm assessment. PSI is like, great, give me your money. And then if they pass, they give us the results. If they fail, they give us the results. So we have it in-house. We think that that's how it's going to go. We're not going to rely on the applicant to give us the results. We think, I mean, this is still all fluid, but you know, that's sort of where we're at right now.
Okay.
Chief, there's nothing within the legislation that's preventing BSIS from taking that course, correct?
What do you mean?
Meaning the assessment first, prior to the
Oh
training.
yeah, no, there's absolutely nothing in there. We don't dictate timing at all, or steps or anything. We're just saying, do this now before you apply.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. And when you look at how the legislation is written, not only would it save on the enforcement and cost, but it just would save on time.
Yeah.
Right, because you're getting the most complicated piece that potentially is in question out of the way, and it gives you enough time to do the training, so you will know up front, you know, where you're at on the assessment, which gives you a little bit more leeway on the training side.
Yeah, no, your interpretation's absolutely correct, and it'll make our timelines look better too, you know.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It sounds like they make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I did have a question and a couple of thoughts on AB 229. First, my question is around the actual incident report itself. When we're referencing that, we're talking about the specific security officer in terms of reporting the incident, correct?
It's security officer, and then I believe, and then Sam can weigh in here too if I'm wrong, but I believe we also take it from the PPO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that?
There'd be two mandates. The guard is required to report it to the employer. The employer is required to report the incident to the bureau.
Got it. Okay. And then thank you for the clarification. Regarding the protocols that are expected to go into effect January 1, is there anything new that folks should be aware of, or any changes in the reporting that is going to take place as a result of the legislation?
I don't think there's, well, so yes, I mean, we do broaden it because currently there are, I think, like 5, you know, subcategories of incidents. You know, we spell it out, you know, like if this happens, if that happens, you have to put a report. And basically, the law said prior to us changing it in AB 229 was basically any report that or any incident encounter that results in police being called, a police report being filed, or medical attention, something like that, you know. And so PPOs were using, you know, the loophole, like, well, you know, we didn't call the ambulance. It was, you know, a bystander. I mean, there were just all these sort of like convoluted ways that they were saying, well, we didn't think that we needed to report. You know, we were just backup on this particular call. Or, you know, yeah, he needed medical attention, you know, the you know, consumer, but I just gave him, you know, a washcloth to you know, wash his bandage and put a Band-Aid on it. So we didn't call an ambulance, so we didn't think that we needed to report, you know, I mean, there were just all of these sort of like machinations and, you know, twisting, you know, trying to get away from having to report it, which always didn't make any sense to me, because I'm like, it literally takes 5 minutes to fill out this form, you know, and if you don't report it, you get fined. So why wouldn't you report it anyway? But they weren't. So now we're saying, okay, you know what? If there's any physical, you know, contact with somebody at all, you need to report it, period.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. I mean, we you know, we have had trainings with security officers up and down the state, all the way from Sacramento to Southern California, regarding you know, not only their responsibilities, but what's at stake if you're not reporting, right? You know, and that's something that comes up quite a bit within the union, within my world of the union for security officers. Another thing that has been coming up quite recently, I would say, probably over the span of the pandemic, is the interaction with 5150s, folks who are homeless, folks who are not, you know, not authorized to enter into different facilities, and there's been an uptick, you know, with officers interacting with folks, and in some cases, it's been pretty. You know, pretty tense situations, folks with needles, folks with weapons. And so the need for reporting is even more, you know, and so that's something that's been coming up quite a bit with folks who I represent. Just a comment. And then my last question is around the fines that's mentioned regarding the use of force and reporting, being that the PPO and the officers are, you know, the reports are coming from them. Does the fines apply for both as well, meaning the officer and the PPO?
No, it's just the PPO.
Just the PPO.
The employer is the one required to report.
Got it.
Yeah. Historically, Anton, there wasn't a requirement for a guard to report incidents to their employer, and that was becoming problematic because we would find out about an event and we would go to the PPO, and the PPO would say, well, we didn't even know. So back when we went through our first sunset, they put the mandate in that now, okay, the guard has to report it to the employer, but there was never a mandate put in for cite and fine authority on the guard. It's strictly for the company.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I don't see how, you know, how the manifestation of this legislation doesn't include that, right? I mean, because ultimately that's what a rubber hits the road. The guard is on the ground, officers on the ground, they're involved with any and all situations that are taking place. It would seem to me that it would make a lot of sense to have that report to come from there, and that it would be mandated. I know that just kind of looking at the industry itself, you know, officers are required to do DARs, which are daily reports, which in some cases includes incidents that are actually all cases of incidents that take place regarding force or interaction with folks at 5150s or the public or what have you. So it just seems to me that makes sense, and I don't see how you would have any legislation that doesn't include that. So that's really refreshing to hear. You know, I just want to reiterate too, if there's any support or any help or any situation that I can be of any assistance at all in any way, just let me know. Specifically on this one, this has been a topic of discussion within the folks who I represent for the past few months since it's come online. I've had several conversations, and a lot of my members have shared different incidents around this, so I would like to be helpful in any way that I can.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. We will be reaching out to you to help spread the word prior to this bill going into effect on January 1. So I don't know if you have like internal newsletters or listservs or something like that, but we found in the past that reaching out directly to impacted population and having them spread the word is very helpful. So we'll be reaching out to you again on that one.
Sure.
Hey,
Okay.
Chief, this is Chris. I got a question.
Hey, Chris.
Just confirming the reporting requirement is not just a guard card side of the aisle, but the PPSO requirement as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Just checking. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Anybody else have any questions about any of the bills that I covered?
Hey, Chief, I just got a clarifying question on AB 358. Obviously, we've been tracking this one pretty closely.
Yeah.
So when you said this has a relationship still with the CSLB, so just from your internal review of the bill, the Bureau does not view an electrified fence as a burglar alarm device, even if it's hooked up to a communication device to transmit that signal. It would still be under the jurisdiction of the CSLB. And then obviously if it's hooked up to a notification device, that system would be under the jurisdiction of the BSIS, correct?
So, that is a good question. I'm gonna, we went back and forth with Ragnarok. I think that's the company that ran this bill. We went back and forth with them and CSLB, and I think I would say your take on this is correct, but I also kind of lost track because of all the iterations it went through. So at this point, I might have to just get back to you on that. And I'm not sure if there's a one size fits all answer for you on that one, Brian, because there's quite a few nuances there.
Right. So since we updated the definition of an alarm system to include ancillary devices, I just want to make sure that protection systems are not considered ancillary devices. So we'll take it offline, but we have some concerns because if there is an appetite to pull this into the jurisdiction of the BSIS, this being any protection systems like a electrified fence, that would be unprecedented with previous basically jurisdictional lines between CSLB work and BSIS work. So happy to take it offline and jump on with legislative liaisons that have looked it over.
Okay. All right. I'll mark that down as a follow-up item with you, Brian.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. And Leon has a question about the vetoed AB 515 trespass bill. Yes, Leon. Leon, you're still on mute. There you go.
Let me start again. Yeah, my reading of this, it passed the Assembly and the Senate, and then Governor Newsom vetoed it. Does BSIS get a lot of consumer complaints from the repossession industry on trespassing issues?
Yes, we do. We do. That is one of the, that was one of the, we ran some numbers when this bill first came into print, and it is one of the top complaints that we get from the consumers for repossessors is trespassing. If it's not the top complaint, it's the top two, right, Sam? I think you're on mute, Sam. Anyway, so yes, we do.
Okay. That's something that you and I'll discuss offline in the next couple of days then.
Okay, that sounds great.
You bet. Thanks, Lynn.
No, thank you. Okay. All right. Does anybody else on the committee have any questions about any of the bills?
Yeah, this is Phil. I was curious as to what the time frame that these people have to appeal for the assessment, and how long does that take, or what's the length of time on that?
Right, so the appeals will be going away as of July or January 1st. But if you take the assessment today and you fail, you get the letter from us saying, hey, you failed, but you can appeal it to the Attorney General. The entire process takes anywhere from 9 months to a year. And at the end of that appeal, you will still get denied because the way the bill was written 4 years ago, in their infinite wisdom, and I'm just laughing because I worked in the legislature for, years and years, but the legislature did not put a remedy in there. So if you fail, you fail. So you can appeal it, but there's no authority in the law for the ALJ or administrative law judge, which is where these cases go in front of. The ALJ has zero authority to overturn it. So they would appeal it and the end result would still be the same. But that process takes between 9 months and a year.
Okay, so after that, can they retake the firearms application again?
From a year, current law says a year from the date of your denial. So, and this is where it gets a little tricky, and this is one of the many reasons why I'm happy to not have this in our world very soon. The date of denial would be the final date of your adjudicated appeal. So say it takes a year to work through the system. You get the date of denial from the ALJ saying, hey, I think you have a good point, but there's nothing I can do about it, so you're not going to get a firearm permit. A year from the date of that letter with your final decision on your case is when you can reapply. So in that case, you're looking at possibly 2-year gap between being able to apply, because again, the 12-month clock under current law, which is going to change, says 12 months from the date of denial. And if you appeal it, the date of denial moves farther and farther away.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you know anybody who is in the appeals process right now, tell them to hold off, because as of January 1, this is one of the things we're working through, and we don't know, we're working through this with legal as we speak. What happens to the folks who are in the queue right now? Can we go back to them and say, hey, if you abandon your appeal, you can retake as of January 1? We don't know. That's something that we're working through with legal and the Attorney General's office. There's a bunch of pieces here that we need to put together, but there are things afoot. Okay. If none of the other committee members has a question, I'm going to open it up for public Q&A.
Q&A box is now open and we are taking public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type comment or I would like to make a comment into the box and send it to all panelists.
Moderator, I'm not seeing any questions.
Would you like me to close the feature?
Yes, please. All right. Okay, guys, we're in the final stretch. Agenda item number 9. This is an update on enacted or pending regulations. So badge, patch, and cap insignia criteria, we were working on this to have uniform standards on how we approve badges and patches. Right now that's on the back burner because we're a little frantic with the AB 229 and SB 607 implementation. So that's something that we will be picking up again, probably after the new year, and pushing that through. The private investigator fee increase, this is based on SB 385 from 2019, I believe. All this does is the regulations, proposed regulations, just line up our regulation language with the statutory language. There's no change. We're just kind of doing this, to conform. That's moving along nicely. I believe it's in the sort of nearing the end of its road on approval. And firearms qualification card training. 632. Antoine, do you mind popping in and giving a brief update on this one? Nothing's coming to mind, unfortunately.
Well, we're still working on it, and this is so we've had a lot of outdated training from firearm applicants in the past. We have applications being submitted with training that is very outdated, like a year prior to them submitting the application. And given the intent of the law and the need for folks to requalify no less than 4 months apart in order to renew, we feel like the initial training must be done within 6 months preceding the filing of or submitting the application for a firearm, because it is a perishable skill and folks need to be trained on handling a firearm every so often. So that's kind of where we're going with that. We're still working on it. It still hasn't been noticed to the public, but the public will have their chance to comment on the entire package once it's noticed.
Great, thank you. Open it up to questions on regulations from our committee members. Nope. Okay. All right. Moderator, do you want to open it up for public Q&A on agenda item number 9, please?
We have opened the Q&A box for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type comment or I would like to make a comment into the Q&A box and send it to all panelists.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions on this agenda item.
Would you like me to close the feature?
Yes, please. All right, final agenda item, well, next to final. Agenda item number 10, public comment on items not on the agenda. The caveat here is the committee does not intend to discuss any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place items raised on the agenda of a future meeting. So moderator, can you open it up for any public comment, please?
We have opened the Q&A box for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type comment or I would like to make a comment into the Q&A box and send it to all panelists. And seeing no requests for comments, do you want me to close the feature?
Yes, please. All right, agenda item number 11. Do any of the committee members have any recommendations for future advisory committee meeting agenda items? Anything that you guys want to see covered that we don't normally cover, either as a permanent agenda item or temporary? If you can't think of anything right now, as always, feel free to email me.
Frank Huntington, I've got a couple.
Sure.
3 guesses. Chief. The first two don't count.
I know where you're going. I'm already writing it down.
I'm hoping by our next meeting, folks, for the rest of you that don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about the new private investigator identification cards. We are actively working with the Bureau, who is actively working with PSI, and I'm truly hoping by the next advisory board meeting, we can drop it from the agenda. That is the second thing, however, is Chief, and I've touched bases with Antoine with this. I had the opportunity to attend the Arizona Association of Private Investigators conference last month, and we were talking about reciprocity. As you committee members may or may not know, California currently has reciprocity for private investigators agreements with only 5 other states. The law basically states that we can share reciprocity as long as the other states' requirements are, similar to ours. So it's Cali's, I believe, our future standing will be to encourage reciprocity whenever possible. I'm going to work with Antoine, and we've got a committee in Cali. We would like to get Arizona added to that because I believe they're very close to our qualifications. But that's perhaps something, again, maybe we can drop it, but I would like to maybe touch on that during the next meeting.
Sure. Just my initial 2 cents from my time in the legislature. Reciprocity laws are really hard to get through. We managed, I don't know how long this particular law with reciprocity for PIs has been in place, but over the last, I would say 15 years, it has been nearly impossible to get a reciprocity agreement in statute. The reason that has been given to me on multiple occasions when, I personally have been involved in them is California has, special needs. It's a special snowflake. We don't want to welcome, people in that we don't know. It's this whole thing, it's a very, but we do have PI reciprocity, and the authority on granting that is like Frank said, assuming they have similar licensing requirements. So it's an interesting situation.
My understanding, and Antoine, if I understood you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the legislation already exists and it's kind of up to the Bureau to evaluate the requirements and then, of course, coordinate with the person or the Bureau or with the other state to make that determination.
Right, and you're right. And I'm sorry, I should have been clear. The reason why I just sort of said, oh, like this is a difficult thing, in case any of you other license types were getting ideas, because it is a very common thing for us to get asked on a regular basis by guards, by whoever, PPOs, like, can they bring people in from out of state? And you need a statute to do that. We have one for PIs, but if the other license types get any ideas, it's to run a bill like this. It's a really, really hard thing to do.
And if I could just clarify for any public members or board members, we're not talking about an out-of-state private investigator coming and setting up a shop in California. We're talking about a very temporary, and the example we used in Arizona was they had a theft case. And people were stealing things in Arizona and crossing the border into California to ship them out of Long Beach. And literally the Arizona people had to stop at the border. They couldn't follow them. So it's for a temporary basis to continue an investigation that originated in your own state into California or vice versa, California into another state. So it's just a temporary thing for the continuation of an investigation. So with that, I'll leave it alone.
Hey, Chief, I can add a little bit of something here too, since I deal with this intimately. Most states have gone away from reciprocal agreements from state to state, but a lot of states have started endorsing basically what they call endorsements. So it sounds like semantics, but in a reciprocal agreement is very difficult because each state usually agrees to it versus an endorsement being that a state decides that, to what you were just talking about, another state's requirements are similar, so they would endorse that license and put that toward meeting a requirement for licensure within that state. So I know it sounds slightly different, but I'm almost I'm always cautious to call myself an expert, but this is kind of right in my wheelhouse. If you want to talk about this more in depth and kind kind of the state of play in other industries.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I had one other thing, just actually touching on the first point, was when it comes to the identification cards, and I know it's a hot topic. The reason we're following is because, as you know, the alarm industry was looking to possibly jump onto this bill with the enhanced license or identification cards for PIs, but we sat back to kind of see how that plays out. The one thing I'll call out is in looking at the Bureau's website under the ability in the process for identification cards, it really doesn't call out which if this process is mandatory or optional, which obviously for most of the industries within the BSIS, this is an optional piece to go to PSI and get that. So just a kind of a takeaway, maybe having something in there, unless I missed it, that calls out that this is an optional process and not required for licensees like ACE or registrants like ACEs and whatnot. And then the only other point I had on that was, and just kind of a general question is, I know that PIs and some other industries have to go to PSI to do certain testing and certification. ACEs do not. Is there any possibility of being able to complete if we go down this process of being able to submit pictures during, let's say, the live scan portion, because the live scan individuals are certified to identify people that they are the actual applicant. And I know that we talked about DMV in the past, and that doesn't seem like it's going to pan out, but possibly looking into having a live scan vendor be able to capture those and submit those to get that license.
Yeah, I mean, sure, we can discuss that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to welcome Darren Morgan, who popped in just a little late. So Darren, I wanted to give you a chance to ask any questions or weigh in on anything.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. No, I've just been kind of catching up. I think the only thing that is weighing on my mind is 229 and its and the implications it'll have. But I think time will bear that out.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Excited and terrified. So
I can appreciate that.
yeah.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Glenn Younger, you haven't,
Yes.
you were here the whole time. I just wanted to check in with you and make sure that you had, if you had any questions or concerns.
No, terrific meeting today. An idea and something that I did want to ask, kind of throw out. Locksmith organization was recently approached by Bing, which is a search engine owned by Microsoft, and they've got a little coalition with another search engine called DuckDuckGo. Long story short, they're talking about, I think they're trying to get ahead of Section 230, no regulations on platforms, and the smart folks in the internet world are trying to get ahead of that, and that being making sure like who can have an ad or a search ad on those search engines, and Bing and DuckDuckGo typically lead, and Google follows kicking and screaming. Like who could be listed as an alarm company in their listing, or who could be listed as a locksmith company in their listing. So they've reached out. We haven't set a date, but that's the idea of talking about it. And that was the background. Is this was a Section 230 discussion, and I didn't know if that would be something. I don't know. Locksmith is probably one of the bigger ones where there's lots and lots and lots of locksmith listings, most of which are unlicensed. I didn't know if any of the other industry types had an issue with companies being listed that weren't necessarily licensed, and if that was something that would be interesting to sort of bring back to the group if that goes anywhere.
Be nice.
That's a really good point, yeah. I can tell you a funny story. So there was a alarm company, Brian, who advertised they were working unlicensed in California, and they sent a solicitation to me, and like one of the little cards in the mail. And the reason why I knew they were unlicensed at the time I got their advertisement in the mail is because I was involved in an unlicensed activity conference call with them the next day. So that was really fun. That was really, I mean, it was super awesome. But yeah, Glenn, you're in sort of an interesting situation because LCOs do not, locksmith companies do not have a statewide association.
Yes.
So it's really tough to kind of get your arms around it, So I'm glad that you're working with Bing on this because I know that you'll have some really good insight for them and some help. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted, but I think the idea there is all of these platforms don't have any, right now, currently don't bear any responsibility because of this federal Section 230, which says, we're just a platform. We're not a publisher. We don't edit, but in fact they do. And so the tide is shifting. The Section 230 will probably go away, and at some point they'll have to say, okay, we can't just publish anything. Right now they can publish anything, and with as long as it's not as long as it's not pornographic, they can literally publish anything they want and allow somebody to say, I'm an alarm company, and I am, they can say whatever they want to say, even if it's wrong, and the company doesn't bear any responsibility. Bing is kind of taking the lead, I think, because Microsoft, they're saying maybe we should take some responsibility. And so anyway, I can keep you all posted, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, please do. That's an interesting sort of case study on this type of thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm about to adjourn the meeting. Any final thoughts, comments, questions? Speak now. Nope, we're good. All right. So as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time out. It's not a huge commitment, but it is significant. So thank you all for your time today. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chief.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next year.
Bye.